Welcome to the back corner.
Yeah, welcome to the back corner.
Yeah.
I'm psyched for this one.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be a good time.
Another mic.
Can never have too many mics.
No.
You are our second of 5 mics in this run of recording. No, sorry, second of three out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 episodes,
I'm
3
confused.
mics.
Yeah.
We're in our current batch, we're recording 5 episodes, and there will be a mic on 3 of those 5 episodes.
3 of 5. Mike Ross, welcome.
Thanks.
Good to have you here.
Glad to have you here,
Glad
man.
to be here.
I got to start. I'm distracted by how handsome you look right now, sir.
Oh, thank you.
That haircut.
I figured, you know what? I can't let Justin and Dr. Ben get all the credit up in here.
You're making.
Shout out to Amy Corey.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought if she can make me 10% more handsome, I'll be happy. I think she did a good 15 to 20.
I was going to say 13, but yeah.
New segment. What percent more handsome am I with this haircut?
I was just jealous you can grow it.
Yeah.
So-
I'd be lying if I said that your inability to grow it wasn't part of my inspiration for going ahead and letting it grow back out.
Just trying to get whatever edge you can.
There's a little, you and I are both competitive and we bring out the best in each other.
I didn't know it was a game.
And, well, it wasn't a game till I realized I could win. That's how I pick my games. What could I win? Let's make that a game.
Man, you're even catching me on physique.
Well,
Yeah.
it has.
Impressive.
I've been going hard.
You have.
I started the creatine.
Did you?
Yeah, although I realized today when I was eating breakfast, I missed the last couple of days, so I gotta load a little more. But yeah,
Next thing is going to be TRT and
I think I'm just gonna go straight to the trend.
to the trend.
Trenabolone. It's an anabolic steroid.
Yeah.
Cut out the middleman.
Human growth hormone, is that
I'm
where
done
we're
having
going?
kids. What
This
do I
sounds
care?
wise. This sounds like a good life move.
Look, as we may get into today, if we talk about mental health, I'm sad a lot. I thought maybe I could be angry for a while.
Add it in. Why not?
Mix up the negative emotions.
Why not? Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the dozens and
Dozens.
oh, you were
Sorry.
you were like halfway through
I was.
Coke Zero Slurp Fest
To the dozens.
and the dozens of loyal listeners.
We love the dozens.
Well, hey, I've been hearing from a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So, hey, thanks for your feedback, your ideas, your advice.
Speaking of ideas, I think before the end of the episode
Unsolicited
today, we're
advice.
actually going to solicit some ideas from
Ideas,
from folks.
yeah.
Yeah, not so much advice.
Yeah, we get
Ideas.
We got a fair bit of advice.
Yeah,
But-
we're good for
People are
advice.
good
But
for
ideas we'll
Yeah.
ask for.
Yeah, totally. But welcome back. Thanks for listening. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for being on this journey with us. We have, like I said, Mike Ross is here.
Yeah.
And excited, man. Excited to have you here.
Yeah.
So
One of my oldest and closest and bestest friends, and one of my favorite people to hang out with.
yeah,
Always a laugh.
I have.
I don't think we've pulled off a sub 4-hour hangout.
We're gonna do it.
Not in a long.
We're gonna do it. We're
we
gonna
will
do it today. Yeah, yeah. I actually remember. I was thinking the other day when I was thinking about you coming on. I actually remember. I don't know what the event was. I don't even think I was on staff here at the time. I think I was just down here as like a student, and like you two and myself, and maybe a couple other people, just hanging out on a couch in this facility here in Quispamsis till like 12 at night.
In
just
legitimately the back corner of the room.
yeah,
we
it
were
was.
in.
Yeah, on like this dank old couch, just cracking up. I have no idea what we were talking about or what, but
Those were the days, man.
they were.
Things were so much funnier back then.
Oh, things are still funny. Things are still funny. We can, yeah. But thanks for being here, Mike. You have we'll get into your story a little bit, but you've got a counseling practice you're running, and that's
Running, no. But
A counseling career you were launching.
a career I am embarking on.
Yeah, so
I'm still a student right
Yeah,
now.
cool.
But
But you are available
I am
at a very approachable rate.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so get in on the ground floor. Eventually, he'll be fixing people with more money than you.
That's right.
But now's your chance. If you are our official sponsor for this episode.
Awesome.
If anyone hasn't figured this out yet, sponsors don't actually pay us anything. We're just giving people shout outs.
yeah. We're
but if someone
we're promoting who we like.
if someone gets to the end of this episode and goes, "Hey, that guy might be a good guy to talk to about my stuff," how can they find you?
Seen Heard Found Counselling.
There you go.
.cc.
.cc.
Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
And
Started the trend, didn't we?
You will see my beautiful mug on that website.
Yeah.
And you click on that and We'll hook you up.
Aren't headshots
I'm sure
the best?
producer Ron will drop that into the show notes. Ron's on it.
Another sponsor, unofficial. We owe it to the good people of Crosby's.
There we go.
Where are we here?
They've been upgraded from conspiracy theory to medical resource
Medicine.
to official sponsor.
Unofficial
Brought to you
sponsor.
by Crosby's Molasses.
Because Crosby's did not
No.
give us the go ahead, nor do the opinions expressed on this podcast
Do not represent those of Crosby specifically or
at
the
all.
molasses industry in general.
Yeah. I
The
think,
molasses producers of Canada.
man, they're going to see at least a 0.3%, a
buddy.
0.3% bump.
I predict at least 2 batches of molasses cookies get baked as a direct result.
And hundreds of pounds of methamphetamine. Anyway, I'm leaving this in the back corner. So
This is a new part of the booth decor.
Crosby's, you made it, man.
For those of you who are who are our audio podcast people, I'm with you. I'm an audio guy. But I would say you owe it to yourself at least once, just to watch a few minutes of this.
Oh, yeah.
On YouTube, just so you can see some of the ridiculous stuff we reference and what's in the background and how handsome I am this week.
I was gonna say, yeah, you can see AJ's haircut.
If for no other reason.
You can see I got a sunburn on my dome, and so
There you
I've
go.
actually got a hat tan already happening.
Nice.
So it's
Well, you're just ahead of the curve.
yeah.
It's going to happen in the summer anyway.
Well, we're lucky or blessed enough to go south for a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And got a little vitamin D.
Yeah.
My pant leg went up at the gym like 3 weeks ago, and like I was aghast at how white. I was just like, it's not even white; it's clear. It's like translucent.
Yep.
And so it was nice to get
Like
back
Moses'
to like
face after he came out of the tent of meeting.
yes. And it's like I quickly pulled my pant leg back down.
You need to
like,
get on your calf just a tattoo of Moses.
Yes.
And people are like, dude, get a tan. It's like, no, man, it wrecks though. This is right after the tent of meeting.
yeah, just pure white as snow.
the glory.
Yeah, like who is it? The Syrian commander that Elisha tells to bathe.
It's like, I'm not up on my Syrian.
No,
I think
in Kings where
I think you mean Assyrian.
Naaman.
Oh yeah, the
Naaman.
leper.
Where he
Yeah.
had lepersy, and this is when after he bathed 7 times in
bathed
the
7
Gordon,
times.
or in the Gordon. It should be the Gordon, the Gordon River.
Gordon River.
The Jordan, his skin was white like snow. I think it said. So
I thought that was before, because the
maybe
leprosy makes
that
you
does
all,
make
like,
you white,
peel
but,
and flaky.
or no, it was like that of a young kid or something like that. I forget what it says.
But it's
Anyway.
the Middle East, so that's not white.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have been.
It was just like
default darker.
a clear kind of beigey tan.
It's true.
Well, this has been Skin Talk here on the back corner.
Yeah, one more local business plug I was thinking of that I wanted to give a shout out just because I'm feeling like I want to is 3 Strands Integrated Marketing Solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, a buddy of mine here at Kings launched that a few months ago.
Nice.
And check them out. 3strandsims.com.
There you go.
And
That's 2 more
dude's-
strands than the average marketing.
Absolutely. Well, he's a brilliant Christian guy, and he's doing good work. So check him out.
There you go.
We always start. I don't know if you know this, Mike. I don't know if you're a big fan of the show.
Huge fan.
Mike is one of the dozens. I believe the first time we've had one of the dozens on.
I know what's coming.
You do?
I do.
So we don't have to tell you about the AI and all that. Like you know.
No.
All right. Well,
I want to know what Tim had for breakfast.
Ron.
had for breakfast. Sorry, Ron. But I know the breakfast. The breakfast is the important part of that. That's why I remember that.
Not the name,
not
it's
so
the
much.
breakfast.
Tim.
Breakfast,
That's all
I
right.
need to know.
Tim,
What did you have for
cue the
breakfast?
music.
Hey, Ron, what did you eat today? Was it toast or cereal gray? Did you
Gray?
go with
Grain.
crazy ham or leftover pizza from your old jam?
It's like Nickelback, or what are we?
I don't know, I feel like this is about ready for Monday Night Football or
Yeah,
something.
it is. Yeah.
Maybe grabbed a bagel plate or something.
This feels like it should have a montage playing under it.
It does.
Yeah.
Guys getting like hit and
Yeah.
touchdowns, and yeah,
I see
it really does. Yeah.
Dramatic montage of breakfast being made.
What was the prompt for this one?
Yeah, that song sucks. So what was the?
I don't know. I kind of liked it.
Oh no.
What
I
was
think
the-
this one last episode I said it was 70s, but this one is the 70s psychedelic
okay.
rock.
That's
So
that sounds
that's-
more like
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more like
Nickelback.
70s Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there we go. What did you have for breakfast, Ron?
You will know it was not Cheerios.
What?
No.
Not any form of Cheerios?
Not any form
'Cause
of
you threw us a
Cheerios.
curveball last episode
Yes.
with your multigrain instead of honey nut.
No, I had a little more time this morning to make
Okay.
something, so I had two toasts with eggs on top, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You had a little extra time.
Little
Maybe
eggs toast.
Yeah.
Got a little
Over
more
easy.
Over easy? Of course.
Runny all
You
over the
gotta-
toast, you know.
Yeah.
I don't understand people who cook the yolk all the way through.
No, I prefer it over easy.
Yeah, I like a little.
I mean, I can eat the yolk.
I can do
though,
sunny
too.
side
I'm not-
up.
I don't have strong feelings about my eggs.
Really?
Anything that I can break open and suck the goo from the inside.
Exactly.
It's no or yes.
Oh, for
No,
sure.
it's a yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a reason Cadbury cream eggs aren't just a solid egg.
yeah.
Because no one wants it. Even I would take a soft boiled egg over a hard boiled egg.
My oldest son Aiden, who's 14 now, when he was born, he was a 10-pounder.
Okay.
He's a big boy. And like when he came out, I was like, look at that. Look at him. And my wife, like pretty much that whole pregnancy, like her craving was Cadbury mini eggs.
Oh, really?
Like that boy developed in utero
Yeah.
on Cadbury mini eggs.
Kelly and I dated through Melvin McMillan's Hebrews class. At
Where are we going with
Kingswood.
this?
And well, we every class I would bring Cadbury cream eggs, and that was like we made collages, we did art projects, we had picnics. So much so that at the end of the class, finally, like at the end of the year, we went to Dr. McMillan and said, "Look, sir, like we are so sorry. Like it just we were so in love. Like it just occurred to us that was your class we were doing. Like you're trying to teach.
It was a
while-
date.
You're trying to teach while we're literally back there with scissors cutting things out and stuff." And he goes, "Look, I asked you a question every now and again. You could usually answer it. I figured you were paying attention. You got the rest of your life to study Hebrews. You got one chance to marry the right person."
Yep.
There you go.
Hey,
There's a man of
wise
wisdom.
man.
Very wise man.
Absolutely. Yeah. You may or may not remember the Hebrew, but
Totally.
your marriage is going to matter.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I can, you can look up Hebrews later.
Well, and we all know that.
Hebrews isn't going anywhere.
Well, it should, because the King James is really the standard we're trying
not
to.
Hebrew, Hebrews.
Oh,
as in the book of Hebrews.
Oh, that's way less.
No,
okay.
dude, we went to the same Bible college. Neither of us were studying Hebrew.
Oh, I didn't know, man. I didn't know if you had some like smart guy track.
I think
or
they
something.
did bring in Greek and stuff eventually.
It was there when I was there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, not when I was there. Yeah. Yeah. KJV was the closest thing we got to the original language.
Okay. Yeah. You brought some toys, man. What do you got here?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So one of my guilty pleasures is collecting Transformers.
Okay.
All right.
And so I brought you a tractor because that just screams AJ.
Sussex.
And
All right.
everybody likes Bumblebee. So
Yeah, he's actually my favorite. Dude, thank you.
That's awesome.
These will. Do we leave them transformed or in their?
Oh, I think I'll go transformed. You stay Bumblebee.
I
you stay car.
picked,
Do you want
I
to
picked
transform?
the easiest ones you could get. They're just
literally
actually
you just go,
transform?
vroom.
Oh wow,
Just go
that
vroom.
is really easy.
These are like the preschool ones.
yeah, they're for preschoolers. That's
Yeah.
why you can have them.
I got to admit that I had a hard time figuring that out for a second, but
You were overthinking it.
I did. Yeah, I was looking for the, and it was more of a gonk.
Yeah.
So
There we go.
yeah,
So
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
You are also the first person to bring gifts.
you are.
Note future guests.
Yes.
You're the first person to contribute to the back corner in any kind of physical.
There you go.
Memento
it
way.
needed Transformers.
It does.
yeah.
It was short a couple of
It
Transformers.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just saying that the other day.
We, I
We were like, is it GoBots? We're like, no, Transformers. It needs
before you guys got here though, I was sitting here thinking about our Mountainous top 4 we're going to talk about later, and I did write Transformers.
There you go.
Although I crossed it out, it didn't actually make the final list, but it was close.
What a great tease, though.
Honorable mention.
Stick around for the Mountainous Top.
Yeah, now you're stuck. Now you're not going anywhere, and even if it is a 4-hour,
You're dialed in
conversation.
for a couple hours here with us.
Yeah, so I wanted to try a couple new segments. We got first thing I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to do. I don't have any like cute music for it yet, so if anybody has any good ideas as to how to get into this, but I wanted to do a something you might not realize segment. So something cool that you might not be aware of. Fun facts, if you will.
yeah.
And so Did you give any thought to that?
Yeah, I
Something people might not realize.
I mean, I got a few of them.
Yep.
I'm gonna start with one that's 98% of people won't care about, but it is that the classic hand plane, like the physical hand tool of the hand plane. Hand me that right there. Can you reach that, Mike?
Reach back in the back corner.
No, I can't.
All right. This is a
There we go.
this in whatever size it comes
If
in.
anybody's watching online.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're not watching, check it out or Google hand plane. This tool, with all of its moving parts and all that kind of stuff, was functionally perfected in the mid to late 1800s by a guy named Leonard Bailey. And if you go to the highest end producers of hand planes today, Lee Nelson in Maine, shout out, once the trade war's over.
He's the number one.
That
number
company,
one hand
they
planer.
make the highest end, nicest. They are literally just copying what this guy did 150 years ago. Like it's basically been perfected. And so sometimes, technology peaks.
You can't improve on it.
You really can't. I mean, there are people who do other things, and some people might prefer more, but generally speaking, that guy nailed it.
We've arrived.
Yeah.
We've
reached peak hand plane.
So there's not a big R&D
Well, there's
department in the hand plane
There's
industry?
a company called Veritas, which is a Canadian company, and they make perfectly functional tools. That's what Lee Valley sells. But even still, I don't think very many people would say they're an improvement. They're just like, oh, it's a different way to do it. It's an alternative or whatever. Like there are other options, but it's basically this guy he nailed it.
They got it right.
Yeah. And he was, lots of people started making metal hand planes, but he was in the earliest wave of guys making metal bodied hand planes. They always used to be wood, and he just nailed it. So,
You might not know.
Leonard Bailey.
Wow.
Leonard Bailey. In fact, on the
know.
cover of my book, that is the patent drawing from Leonard Bailey hand plane.
Wow.
So that drawing is basically a map of this hand plane. This was made last year. That was made 150 some years ago.
I should say, I did not know that.
A lot of stuff there.
So
I didn't
here's
know.
the thing. You didn't say it's something you would like to know. You just said it's something you might not know.
realize. Yeah.
And I figured, I bet you a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to lose at this segment.
Yeah, literally it just has to be obscure. That's the only qualifier.
Do you have anything you'd like to share that some people might not know?
I've got this mole on the back.
I had a mole looked at yesterday on my back. There you go. You might not know that.
I didn't. I had no idea.
You did, yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. No?
No,
I got one.
Yeah, all right.
All right,
Go for
sorry.
it.
We meant to give you a heads up.
Yeah.
No one tells me nothing.
I have one that so I follow, or I'm in a pastor's cohort with a guy, the pastor in Milwaukee, and he's the chaplain of the Milwaukee Bucks, that's fun.
Yeah.
I wish we had the Milwaukee Bucks here and I could be the chaplain. But anyway,
Sea Dogs might be looking.
yeah, maybe, but that's not quite the Bucks. But anyway, he posted a video about the evangelical origins of basketball as a sport. Now, I've been a basketball player. It's my favorite sport. I'm still very into it my whole life. As you can tell, even in the back corner here, I got a Jordan poster. Big fan, and this just solidified. If I ever had any doubts as to what is the greatest sport, basketball is it. I sent that video to you, Ron. Do you have that? Check this out.
Basketball was created by Dr. James Naismith. He created basketball as a tool to share the gospel. It became a global game because of the YMCA missionaries. Back when the Y was actually a Christian organization, they had missionaries they sent out. Well, James Naismith would train them up, teach them basketball, and that is how it became such a global game so fast. I talked to NBA coaches, NBA players, people that love basketball. They have not heard this story either. You know, he actually originally put a stick in the game when he was making the rules. And then he prayed about it and removed the stick because he said it'd become a rich man's sport like golf and tennis. I need a poor man's sport so that missionaries can take this game around the world and use it as a tool to disciple. His famous quote is, so that we might win men to the master through the gym. It was a discipleship tool. That captured my heart, is You're telling me that we get to redeem the original purpose of basketball. No other sport has that story.
That's pretty cool.
That
eh?
is really cool.
Yeah, I love that. That like he prayed about the invention of it.
Yeah.
you know, it's the
And God
speaking
said,
of
get rid of the stick.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's and it is like I think next to soccer, it's probably the most accessible
What
sport.
would they have done with the stick?
I don't know. Like
That's
like
the-
whack it up into the net. I don't know.
Well, that's why they had to cut the bottom out of the peach
Yeah,
pass.
I was working. I was going to work that heritage moment in. Yeah. But
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So you might not know that. I didn't know it. And
I've got one more quick one.
yeah,
Really in the category of things you might just not have realized. If you think about it, you'll understand it. But
it's called something you might not realize.
if you buy raisins, they are cheaper by the grape than actual grapes. So raisins are dried grapes.
Yes,
And so if you wanted to buy 100,
raisins.
right, that's cheaper than 100 grapes.
I guess I knew that. I just never taken.
That's
the
what I'm
time
saying.
to
You haven't
flesh that-
realized
to
it. It's
flesh
not
that
new
out.
information. It's just you just have never cross referenced. But I tend to buy a lot of both. And I was buying a big bag of raisins the other day. And I was like, this giant bag of raisins, which is like got 400 more raisins or whatever than a bag of grapes, is only slightly more expensive than a bag of grapes. And I was like, man, it's actually cheaper to buy them once they've had to go through whatever the grapeification or the raisinification process. But it would make them cheaper to ship.
My daughter's on
There's
this
no food
big
in
grapes kick in her lunch. Like, and she's like, Dad, thanks for the grapes you put on my lunch this week. I made her lunch or whatever.
There you go.
If times get any harder, I'm gonna have to
Go raisins?
go raisins and tell her they're grapes. They're just old.
I'll tell you, here, put them in water the night before. By the time she gets up for school in the morning, they'll be somewhat rehydrated. Can you imagine?
nasty.
Grape-ish.
That would be hey, Dad, it's okay if you stop putting grapes in my lunch.
Now, are the small little raisins you get? They must have been fairly small grapes at the start.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moisture in a grape, right? So you
Man,
suck all
that's-
that moisture out.
They're what,
Shrivels up.
5% of the size of some grapes? Like 10% maybe? They're
No,
pretty small.
15, 20, depending.
Well, if we haven't lost everybody now.
This has been grape talk in the back corner.
That sound means that's tinfoil hat time.
Alrighty.
This is what I've been waiting for. This whole time, I've been thinking, when are they breaking out the tinfoil?
Hey, what's that that old cartoon? There was like a Viking guy. You know what I'm talking about?
Hagar the Horrible?
No,
Although, now that you say that,
that might be it.
maybe.
That's the only Viking related.
Going,
I was thinking more of like it looks like the like Sound of Music, like Fräulein.
No, I
Fräulein. Yes.
I get you.
How do you solve a problem like AJ?
You don't, bro. You might be able to now because you're a therapist.
Maybe.
You can find Mike at Seen Heard Found Counselling.
Oh my gosh.
All right, we've arrived at 9 BC, and we've done tinfoil hat time or tinfoil Rambo time. This is our 9th time.
Yeah.
And we've made it this far without talking about the most obvious thing we should have been talking
We're
about the
going
whole time.
straight to the top on this one.
We're going Bigfoot.
Love it. The Yeti.
All right. Let's do this.
Sasquatch.
What do we think about Bigfoot? What are we? What's our take? What's our official stance on the Sasquatch, the Yeti, the Bigfoot?
Is the understanding among those who are enthusiasts of such that Sasquatch and Bigfoot and Yeti are the same basic creature,
That's an important qualifier.
or are
That
they
is.
different species, or are they
let's
just
get in.
vaguely similar phenomenon?
Let's get into it. I think the most famous. Well, let's start with just like the North American Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Let's the genus
Sasquatchus North Americanus.
North Americanus. So yeah, most famously spotted in the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah.
For our viewers who are watching on YouTube, do you have that clip? You all have seen this. You've seen the Patterson. So that was taken in I think it was like 1967, the late 60s. Two guys, Patterson and Gimlin, allegedly spotted this creature moving. So that's the most famous Bigfoot sighting. Although if you go online, you can definitely find a lot of people claiming, some seeming not super credible. Others, I mean, the thing that always gets me with any of this paranormal stuff or cryptoid stuff, cryptozoology, if you will, is it's the people who will claim to have seen something that otherwise seem like well-adjusted human beings, and B, even more so, have something to lose by taking that claim. Like people who are like, I run a counseling services, or I run
The big reveal's coming when Mike says I've actually met a Sasquatch.
Have you guys seen a Sasquatch?
I have never seen a Sasquatch.
Me neither.
My youngest son Isaac went through a pretty serious into Sasquatch's phase.
Really? Went down the vortex.
That Bigfoot Hunter show. We watched that all the time. Every time we drive, I was just a little kid at the time, but every time we drive through any woods anyway, he's like, this looks pretty squatchy. they always talk about that on the show. Yeah.
There's a lot of people though out there that, you know,
that
you just don't want to outright
something was
dismiss them.
witnessed and who it was witnessed by. Like that's a different thing, right?
Yes,
Like if it's
totally.
like some guy's like, yeah, I drop a lot of acid and I've seen UFOs and Sasquatch and Loch Ness Monster.
Right.
But yeah, when you have someone who, you know,
like that's the only outlier in the whole thing.
This one time I saw this thing, and otherwise I'm a pretty like level-headed whatever person, and yeah, people are more likely to think I'm an idiot for saying this than it's going to get me some sort of credibility. I do think that doesn't prove anything, but those are the people that I go, okay, let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah. That Patterson Gimlin film, like I did a little bit of a deep dive on that, and there are like obviously people who have said that's a person in a monkey suit.
Yep.
But there's some pretty elaborate explanations as to how that couldn't be, and like stuff like its gait and how it's walking. And they actually, I saw interviews with the guys that like did the Planet of the Apes, like they're the costume artists, and they're like physiologically, not only in 1967, but now we don't have the ability to create costumes that.
I watched a
organic.
documentary about, I think it was Bigfoot in general, but they spent a lot of time on the Patterson Gimlin film, and I think there was something to do with the hair that they talk about in that, like the way the hair shakes.
It actually moves with the muscles.
Yeah,
like it's not sitting on top of something. It's connected
attached
to them.
Something that's a
it's interesting. Also, like there's a couple things to consider on that particular one. You think about like, well, one, I guess this doesn't, like it's a female. It's got boobs. I don't know if you saw that, but like I said, hairy boobs. And then, it's like
there's the phrase I didn't expect to come up on the episode today.
There's a clip for you.
There's the teaser. Just that, nothing else.
Some kid is going to grab just that clip. It's gonna be, hairy. Yeah.
And then like where was I going with that? Like there's some stuff that if you're, it's like the argument even for the Bible. It's like if you're going to make a hoax, you would never do that. Right? Like you would be like, who would take the time to think it's going to be a female, she's going to be walking away. Like if you were going to take the time to make such an elaborate costume, would you probably do more than just try to scurry off?
Yeah.
I guess that's their take.
Well, so let's start with a slightly broader question. Like Mike, I know you ran a survival camp. Like for kids, not like a compound for years.
Yes, the Hunger Games. Yeah,
and you hunt or at least have a bunch, and spend some time in the military, and like the real one where you actually go out in the woods. Have you ever encountered anything in your time in the woods, out in nature, that you felt went beyond something you could easily explain? Seen something that you were like, this was not in the biology textbook in high school, that kind of thing?
Yes. Not Bigfoot.
No.
But there was this one time, and there were other people with me, so we all saw it.
Okay.
And it was this light way out in the distance. It came, flew right over, sat over our heads like this glowing
like an
ball of green fire, and then frigged off that way.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
dude?
it's serious.
Where was this?
This was in Amherst in the woods somewhere. Yeah.
Who are you with? Like,
My dad and the guy up the road, his name is Allison, and my next door neighbor, Freddie. And we all saw it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
is that far from where that like big UFO
Shag
sighting?
Harbor?
in-
No, it's pretty far.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And not the same.
No. Shag
the
Harbor's
same
way
time
down
frame.
by Yarmouth-y area.
So you
Yeah.
have seen some inexplicable things in the woods.
But they weren't hairy.
Nothing hairy.
yeah.
Right.
Nothing that I can't explain.
Right. Yeah.
Except for the green ball.
the
of-
green ball.
The green orb.
What's your explanation for that?
I have none for that.
Yeah.
I was talking about like the animal
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Like I've seen bears.
Brent, you have ever encountered anything personally, Brent? That you
No, like I've spent a decent amount of time in the woods growing up, and then in the last 7 or 8 years, been doing a lot of hunting and fishing. No,
Yeah.
there's been times I've felt spooked in the woods because you're alone and it's dark, but I've never actually seen anything weird. Now, and that's one of the reasons I'm not so sure about, like, this is funny, I have to qualify this. I'm not so sure about Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
I'm more open to orbs and weird UAPs and stuff than I am to Bigfoot being like an actual creature that lives in the woods. There's so many thousands of hunters constantly in the woods. Also, when it's dark, things look like things that they aren't.
Totally.
And if you've ever seen a black bear standing, like they look human. There's just a way more evidence for there not being something there. But I guess when you flip it, it's like if one of those people are telling the truth, out of all there's thousands of claims of Sasquatch sightings, and and you go back to like First Nations.
Yeah, it's multiple cultures.
There's multiple cultures
areas.
that have like that category, and where did that come from? Did they just invent that out of thin air? Was it in a nightmare or a dream, or was there actually? I don't know. Was there stuff?
I think
going
Wookiees
on?
are real.
You think Wookiees are real? Yeah,
That's
somewhere
what it is.
in a galaxy far, far
Oh
away.
yeah, but they
a long
were in a
time ago.
galaxy a long time ago in a galaxy far,
Yeah.
far away. They got here.
Oh,
They-
okay.
They're just wandering around in the woods.
I got you.
I think
From Kashyyyk to Earth with love.
what a deep cut.
There
That's
you go.
impressive.
Kashyyyk, that's where
Yeah.
the Wookiees are from.
No, I know.
Oh, yeah.
I
Dude,
got the reference.
I got this hat on. I'm
just
I'm here
impressive.
for the game.
So here's my thinking. On the one hand, you can't prove a negative.
Yes, you can't prove it's not.
Right. You can't prove anything doesn't exist.
It's like with God, right?
I mean, I would argue the evidence for God is slightly higher than Bigfoot, but
I,
that's sarcasm for those of you who
Yes,
don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, no, you can't prove a negative. You can't prove something doesn't exist. You can't prove something isn't out there. I think if Bigfoot, if it was less frequently seen in North America, like there are parts of the world that there are still species that are just still being discovered and all this kind of stuff. Although
Yes.
even then, it's usually like, this is another species of sparrow to add to the 7,000 species of sparrow we have kind of stuff. It's not like a whole
Right.
different, category of creature. And so the idea that this is some sort of primate that's that large,
yeah.
that's in a place that's fairly well traveled, like not deepest, jungles of the Amazon, but,
Yeah.
the Pacific Midwest where everyone hikes and stuff.
Yeah.
That seems to make it less likely for me. The scary thought to me, though, is the thing that would increase the likelihood of it being true would be it would have to be a highly intelligent creature that is intentionally hiding.
Yeah.
And what it would take to intentionally hide when you have that many people, in your territory, but then also actively hunting for you, is a level of intelligence I'm not like roughly parallel to ours.
Yeah.
Not like border collie smart,
Right.
or even dolphin smart,
Right.
but like
you can find a pod of chimpanzees
Totally.
pretty easy, and they're like the closest thing to
yeah,
people.
or like like whatever, like think of super skittish animals or nocturnal animals
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Like
They're hard to find.
They're
but you
hard to
can.
find, but you can find them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I to me the how widespread it is, some sort of giant furry human-esque, bipedal it is. I'm not opposed to the notion that there is something that gave rise. Like there is an actual phenomenon that gave rise to that. I don't think everyone who thinks they saw one. I think, most every specific example can be explained away, but then sometimes there's just the, what do they call it? The preponderance of evidence kind of a thing.
Yeah. Occam's razor.
Yeah.
Like the most like probable, the most obvious is probably what's true.
So like, is there something in human psychology throughout centuries and across continents that is predisposed to create this lore, right? Or is there something at some point in history? Because once it's into the public consciousness too, it's easier to imagine. Like, who are the first people who thought they saw that, right?
Right.
Like that's the
and then they had to explain it to
totally.
their
If I went
friends
out in
and
the woods
family.
and I saw a black bear up on its back legs after I just watched the Patterson Gimlin film, it'd be very easy for me to go, I think that's a Sasquatch,
Right.
Right, because the idea is already there.
planted.
But yeah, so I really don't know. It's funny because I like to think I'm a skeptic, but I'm not. I'm really more of a cynic. So it's not so much that I don't think they're out there, but I don't think we're ever going to find them or anything.
Yeah. Mike, do you have a take on that? Do you think there's a possibility that's a real thing?
The argument that there are very rational people who will claim that they've seen something, like you can't just throw that out.
Right.
Right? Like I've seen some bipedal things that definitely warranted a second look.
Right.
Because your first look is, that's not right.
Like demonic
Right?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is that, and then there's the in indigenous cultures in North America it's the Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you eat the flesh of another human being, the spirit of the Wendigo possesses you, and you become, animal-like. Right. So it's those things that make me go, some of these people are probably seeing something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We shouldn't easily dismiss one testimony from people that are, everything else is credible.
Yeah.
And then just like lore and myth. Like I think we have a recency, arrogance, and bias that we just assume, those old cultures were crazy, but there's a reason that some of these myths and tales exist.
Tell the Old Testament people that the Nephilim weren't real.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we got to get that every time the Nephilim.
The Nephilim count?
The jar. goes.
Yeah, with the Nephilim jar. Yeah.
So here's an interesting thought though, like that idea that some of these, whether you want to call them cryptozoological or even kind of drifting into the more like horror lore creatures.
What are some of them? You got your Sasquatch, you got your Chupacabra.
Yeah. Chupacabra. I mean, and do you want to go all the way to whatever mummies and what, what I mean? But
vampires.
Yeah, vampires are a great
That's a big one.
Vampires are great. Werewolves.
Well, Lewis and Tolkien would say,
Dogman.
like those things.
Yeah.
Like there's precedent for the creatures that they were bringing to life in literature.
Elves and orcs.
Lewis and Tolkien were calling back to things that they believed had actual place in the human story.
Leprechauns.
Well, small
Spirits.
people.
That's one of the little people.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing to me.
We call them small people.
We are very much on the purposes of proving the existence of Bigfoot, I think.
You think? right now, here in the back corner?
Right now, in this moment, in the back corner.
Conclusive.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of those creatures, like if you were to argue to me that they had some sort of spiritual, they're a physical manifestation of an unclean spirit, or they are a human that has, you look at the classic story of the Gadarene demoniac, right?
Yes.
Like that dude was barely recognizable, right?
Yep.
So like, could a demon possess a person who would engage in something as evil as eating human flesh or whatever?
Yeah.
And actually like keep them physically alive for a prolonged period. Like, sure, I have a mental category for that. The problem with Bigfoot though, is like most all those other creatures are in some way harmful, either violent, they're deceptive, they're thieving, they're murderous,
there's somewhere underneath all that is, in a lot of those cases, is a human that's been corrupted.
Yeah,
or
that's
twisted
part of the lore.
Yeah.
right?
But with Bigfoot, he's just out there wandering around.
Just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so it's like
yeah.
to me that almost goes like, yeah, like could I believe again the Wendigo, that is some cultural memory of some demonic activity connected with a human? Yeah, I mean I wouldn't rule that out, but like it would be really weird for like a demon to be like, I'm going to take this dude over. I'm going to make him wicked hairy, and he's just going to hide in the woods. Like it just seems, you know what I mean? Like
kind of a waste of time.
yeah, you would think if the story was like, and then Bigfoot comes and kills everyone, but like,
Yeah.
are there ever stories of like
just
Bigfoot's being violent? Bigfoot's
yes.
being like,
Oh yes.
Are there?
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of like.
No, there's some horror. There's
really?
some horror Bigfoot stories.
Okay, now
Oh,
see,
oh,
I've
yeah.
never encountered those. I've always mostly just heard like
Harry
maybe-
and the Hendersons.
Well, no,
yeah,
like
or just even
like-
that one's just walking away.
yeah, like the
trying to mind its
whole
business.
knocking thing, or like maybe them yelling at you to get out of their territory, but not like them taking over a campsite and eating everyone.
I think there have been like some that try to get us kind of thing.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure, but I think to your point, if they are nefarious, they're not very good at it.
Yeah,
Like
and it's
they're-
not core to their lore.
Yeah,
like no more
it's
than
not.
no more than you would get with a bear or a wolf. That like it's an animal, it's out there. You cross it, it's hungry, it might do something, but it's not like coming into town.
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
So my official take on Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've been waiting to hear this because I know you have one.
Well,
that predates the beginning of this
it sure
podcast,
does.
unlike me and Mike.
It's not. I think Mike's given it some thought. Actually, it's not buttoned down, and it's certainly not ready to be published by any means, other than just put out into the ether forever. But my take is this: first, I would say to the Christians who think like, and yes, I realize we have tinfoil hats on and we're having fun with this. However, we who believe that in a supernatural God, a whole cosmos that there's the physiological world that we don't even understand, let alone how little we know about the heavens and like the spirit realm. Like we just know we don't even know about the ocean,
yeah.
let alone,
I would be more likely to.
Are you
buy
going to go with the
into
big fish are
Bigfoot
feet?
under the sea?
Yeah,
Well, no,
the
so-
Bigfoot is a fish.
No, the first thing I would say is I just think it's funny to me how many Christians are just like dismissive of anything that could be paranormal.
yeah,
To like so over materialist.
totally. That's it. We're
it's like-
functional materialists.
Yeah, and it's like you're a Christian, so functionally, you actually have to have a worldview that has categories for things like seraphim and
Yeah.
cherubs and
the world
angels
is
and
enchanted.
demons and powers, and so that's the word I was going with. Like many Christians live in a disenchanted worldview.
yeah.
And like,
In the West, anyway.
yeah. Very good point. Like this is not the case. We go to Africa
Yeah.
or South America. Like they're very much more aware of the unseen realm. And that'd probably be the first thing I would say is like Bigfoot aside, the not just possibility but probability that there are these little intersection moments of like heaven punching or heaven not in the like the good sense,
Yeah.
but like
The spiritual
the
realm.
domain of the spirit,
Yeah.
punching through our reality and intersecting that and having these experiences, encounters that we don't understand. I think a Christian should pump the brakes if you just dismiss everything. Like now, is it the Hollywood version of that? Like when you talk about vampires or whatever, like chupacabra or all these mystery creatures? Probably not. But I think we should have an openness to could be.
Yeah.
Then you mix in. So here's what I think about Bigfoot. I'd say there's a 2% chance that there's an animal it's a large animal,
Gigantopithecus.
yes, that is able to hide in the woods. There's a small chance that just they're better at being not seen than seen, and we just haven't discovered it. That maybe. My sense would be that this is a paranormal creature. If people are really seeing something, It's some kind of interdimensional. You can't say interdimensional, but it is some. It is.
You got the right hat on for
I
it,
sure
man.
do. It is some kind of interdimensional being or creature that I think, like is part of unseen realm reality, perhaps. Like if I'm going to have a category for it, it's something we don't understand, and it's punching through that way. So I don't know. Am I a Bigfoot believer? Not really. But am I a dismisser of it? No. I have room for, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, like talk about UFOs and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, I don't have a hard time believing in.
I think the posture that is required mentally to dismiss out of hand anything that we don't have on a slab in a lab
Yes.
is certainly just intellectually disingenuous, but also can be hazardous to your faith, because your faith is not on a slab in a lab, right?
Absolutely.
And so once you start going, if I can't see, taste, touch it, whatever, it's not real.
Yeah.
It's really not that far from that to the help of the Holy Spirit when you're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see or taste or touch that, right? Like,
You think about the variety just in the world that we know, like just in the the quantifiable universe, like just the different species of animals, and like just how like almost infinite the variety of creativity of God on the earth. And then you think, okay, it says in the beginning he made the heavens and the earth. And so we just take our little slab of the earth and like how much is going on there in the created order. We don't even get any real details of the heavenly created order. But like, who knows what creatures exist in the heavens?
It's interesting you say who knows what creatures exist in the heavens. Who knows what creatures have existed on Earth?
That
right?
too.
Like there's,
too.
We know that there's, just stuff's always going extinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a constant thread of that. And if you buy into the biblical narrative that, the world was created perfect, and then the fall happened and everything's been kind of going downhill since then, right? The idea too that, and how far back this would have to be, but there was something that even if it was just a purely biological thing, that gave rise to a collective understanding of this category, and then you're able to start putting things. So
like even with Genesis 6, right?
Well, the notion that if I saw a bear on its hind legs, I would think it was Bigfoot is kind of silly. If I wasn't making up the concept of Bigfoot to explain it.
Right.
But if I already had the mental category of Bigfoot,
yes,
and my brain, like your brain wants to file things so bad, right? And if it looks at that and goes, that seems kind of crazy, but that's the closest thing I can file it in. And so that idea too that, recent stuff, and is recent the last 50 years or the last, 5 millennia, I don't know. But that some of that stuff is us misfiling things in a shared within humanity mental category that we have for a good reason, because there used to actually be a thing that fit in that category.
Well, and the Genesis 6 things, just to your point of creating categories, like that's one of the things when I started to learn about, like look at Genesis 6 as that's the framing story for a lot of the tales that every like people group have always told. Like it says, that these angelic beings like reproduced with the daughters of men and created these like half-breed kind of abominations,
Even
like,
that drives home the whole, like, not only do we not fully understand the heavens, that the spirit realm, but even the level of connection there can be.
Right. Like, you can impregnate a female?
Yeah.
That's what it says anyway. So.
Whatever you think that a demon, an angel, a fallen something.
We think they're way disembodied and not like, unseen does not mean not tangible.
Totally. Non-corporeal.
But you think about like, okay, and it says right in Genesis 6, read it later if you want, if you're watching or listening. But like,
if you're gonna listen to the back corner, you should probably get familiar with Genesis 6. It comes up. That's the Nephilim chapter for those of you who are looking for the connection.
But it talks about the Nephilim. It talks about how like they also created the men of renown, like that there were these super beings. And why do we have such an infatuation with stories of super people? You think of the Greek.
All the different
Greek pantheon.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from? Like, these tales, and the Bible's saying that there's its origin right there, and it's fleshed itself out in a variety of ways in a variety of cultures.
It's interesting too that there's this idea that that demons often have a thing they're associated with, either a geography or a sin.
Yeah, an assignment of some kind.
Yeah, well, like there's a demon whose thing is lust, or there's a
Right.
demon whose thing is greed, or there's a principality or power who
This Prince of the
block
Power
is-
of Persia or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So the notion that most of your kind of ancient pantheons of gods, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Norse, whatever, like not just there was a bunch of gods fighting it out, but they were gods of something.
Yes.
Like they had a thing that was their shtick,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm the god of this nature thing, or I'm
Yeah.
the god of this area, or whatever. Like that even okay, this is not insane. Like that there could be that could be what's going on here. That there were these, we believe in God. We believe everything's under God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We believe in humanity. We believe that there are angels and demons. I mean, that's pretty orthodox
Yep.
Christianity. But the notion that there could be some other things
Yeah.
that either aren't those categories or that are hybrids of those categories that made some other thing, like I don't see how you can rule it out.
Well,
I don't
even-
think you need to worry that the guy who pumps your gas is one of them, but
I love where this is going but like even you take how in Genesis you almost see like the marriage and the mirroring and the complementing of heaven and earth, right? Like even in the Genesis 1-2, like it's like that, there's these complements that are happening, and one of the overarching one is like the mirroring of heaven and earth. And you even see in like Exodus when God gives instructions for the temple and the tabernacle,
Yeah.
and it's actually mirroring some reality in heaven, like that. And so much of what we're experiencing, like there's this parallel thing. And so you even look around at the world and you think, well, God made human beings kind of at the top of the created order.
Yeah.
So perhaps he made angels in the heavens, like on the top of the created order. But what's everything else underneath, right? Like we have dogs, and let's categorize them
what do they got?
in order: dogs, horses, dolphins.
I think that needs to be our next
Our
Mountainous top
Rushmore,
four.
right? Yeah.
Is,
greatest creatures.
What are the greatest creatures God
but
created?
it's I just think we can't close the door. Like I think people need to embrace more imagination, and what was the word you used, Mike? Just don't live in such a disenchanted reality that actually isn't congruent with what your Bible says is real. And then just start realizing too that the Bible actually gives a source for all of the tales, like, or at least a category for all the tales and belief systems of the world and where those came from. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
So
Absolutely. Well, so Mike, you'd mentioned you've never encountered Bigfoot, and we were all disappointed to learn that, but that you have had encounters with, I think, beings that would fit into some of these categories we're talking about here. Something
unholy powers, creatures.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
If so, you got a story or two for us?
I think I remember you telling a story one time, and it scared the crap out of me for a long time.
Let's see if
Yeah.
it still does. Let's go.
I
Let's see
guarantee
if
it
still
won't,
does.
but go ahead.
Yeah, so this was fresh out of.
Yeah, let's
this off?
all right.
All right.
This is at least less hypothetical.
Yeah. So this is fresh out of Bible college. I am at my first church down in Shelburne, Nova Scotia, and
For people who are listening too,
Yeah.
you've been a pastor. You've done all the things.
I do. I've
Yeah.
done so many things.
Yeah. So you were
Pastor, real estate mogul, drug addict, therapist.
in the military. You said
Time in the reserve.
A short stint.
You've
in
done carpentry?
reserves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Home reno.
Yeah, you've done
Oh, yeah,
a
like
lot.
a property
Yeah,
flipping kind of
he's
stuff.
done a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike's done it all.
So you're at your
A lot of things.
you're at the church in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so I'm down there, and so this is like they found this place for me to stay. It's this little trailer,
Like mobile home kind of
mobile
thing?
home, like
Or
yeah,
camper?
like no mobile home.
Okay.
And I go in there, and there's the lady that had passed away there. All her stuff was left behind, and there's all this iconography everywhere, and there's all the, like shrines to different things, and so I get rid of that stuff and move my own stuff in, and shortly after that, weird things just started happening.
Poltergeisty stuff.
Yeah. And so this one night, the night that
Patty Murphy died.
yeah. So I was lying in bed and I heard this rustling in the corner, and I opened my eyes and there was this thing. Mm-hmm. It looked like it was dressed in rags. It was on its feet. It would have been about maybe 3 feet tall, and it waddled over to me and it physically put its hands on my body. And I threw the covers over my head and just went, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And the next day, I was on my way to Sussex for something. And I went and I immediately found Doc Taylor and said...
Who, for our listeners, he was the prof at Kingswood.
Yes.
He was in his last year when I was there. You guys went through with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was the demons and bondage
Spiritual
expert.
warfare.
He taught a class
deal.
called Spiritual Conflict Resolution.
He spent...
I love how clinical that is.
He spent time in Haiti. He's
Years as a missionary there.
He's he's had demons try to kill him on more than one.
Spiritual conflict resolution,
Yeah.
or the art of kicking demon.
Yeah. And so I went and I said, I know that he won't think I'm crazy, because I didn't tell anybody.
Yes, that's such a thing, eh?
Yeah. And so I went to him and I told him, and he just goes. He goes to his filing cabinet and he pulls out this piece of paper and he says, go through your place room by room, pray this prayer, and then walk around the perimeter, and you won't have any more problems. And because I have more faith in him than I did in but I was like, if you
he
say
says it,
I believe it. And sometimes that's, we
measure of faith.
How many times has someone else's faith got me through something, right?
Absolutely, man.
Fine. So I go back and I do that, and from each room it becomes more intense. You can just
could feel the...
You can just feel it. And so I get to the last room. It's an outside porch that's been built on. And when I pray through the prayer, and I wish I lost it. I lost it in the horrible poop flood in my home.
Oh, the prayer.
The prayer that he gave me, yeah.
And the poop flood was like a septic disaster.
It wasn't a metaphor. It was a flood of poop.
It was a flood of poop.
But it came up from the ground. Okay,
yeah. So anyway,
it wasn't a bad night with burritos.
No.
All right.
So anyway, I got to that last room and I prayed in that last room, and I'm not kidding you. The outside light turned on, the door flew open, and I chased that thing out into the yard. Like I couldn't see a thing, but I just was like, and because I just felt this, and I just I went out there, and if the neighbors saw me, they must have thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But I just was hollering around that trailer, just get out of here in the name of Jesus.
Yes.
And since then, I haven't had something that intense, but I think part of the reason is because when I go somewhere now, I'm aware, and
right.
I'm always cleaning house.
Yes.
Especially there will be certain people. I don't know. God just sends me the people that need someone to listen to them and believe them, and and I mean, how many times after a conversation I've been like, okay, I gotta clean house. I gotta. You guys had some guests on here a little while back. Same type of
Howards.
thing. Like that stuff's residual. Yeah.
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 That's I've had quite a bit of that stuff happen in my lifetime too. And actually I saw a 3 foot, about 2.5, 3 feet, creature being. Like I'd had a lot of demonic attack at nighttime, particularly growing up. And I only ever saw physiologically something once. I saw with my eyes in the corner, like crouched over, staring at me, like with a kind of a mocking face kind of deal, and it was small. It was probably about, like 3.5 feet tall. Looked a little bit like, honestly, like some of the, if you were to draw what you think a demon would look like, you know, you picture the little thing that sits on Jabba the Hutt's feet, you know, in Return of the Jedi, like that little creature that was similar to that, you know. But that that thing you described, Mike, of I don't know, I've found it, and it's not the same anymore, but back then, you know, growing in my awareness of that reality and having those experiences and learning my authority in Christ. And even to this day, when I know there's some kind of, you know, a spiritual attack going on, I sometimes compare it to like throwing up almost, where it's like, well, you know, you're getting sick and you're in denial at first for a little while. Like, no, this isn't happening. This is not happening. No, it's just, I just feel a little weird. I'm a little off. But then you accept that this is happening, and something after that acceptance rises up in you. And like, it's the Spirit of God. And you almost get angry. Like there's this like righteous anger that takes
anger. I think
over.
is the right word for it. Like,
like how dare you?
I've only had one. Like I've had lots of experiences where I knew there was something spiritually funky. In fact, I had that. I kid you not, at the gym yesterday. So I was just like, there's something off with anyway. But the only time I've been like in a situation where we were like, there was a legit. It's the only thing I've been a part of that I would say qualifies as a legit full-blown exorcism. There was a point in that where I don't know, it's not a blind anger, but like that, like you become offended on behalf of the poor person, and on behalf of like almost on behalf of the authority of God, like kind of like you are disrespecting, like you.
How dare you come
and
defy the Lord, my
like,
offense is the right word.
Yes.
It's like, it's an offense. It's a how dare you.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
That's
and I think when you come to understand the way this stuff works on permissions and on authority, and it stops, like you actually, I don't mean you stop respecting in the not respecting like in a differential way, but like having an understanding of the gravity of what you're up against. But there is this, like, you just like, no, this is not a thing you get to do. And that's how this works. Like, we're not actually in a fight. Anything you're doing because you have permission. Anything I'm doing because I have permission. I know what my permissions are. Like, I know what authorities I carry, and I know they trump yours. And so it becomes like it's like someone coming into your house and not taking off their shoes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, this is not okay, dude. Like, you know, or have you ever had that experience? Like, like if your kids have a friend over who just hasn't been properly house trained, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, like there's stuff you'll put up with, but then there just comes a point where like, you're in my house, kid.
Get out of here.
Like, it's you need to you know, shape up.
I think people too are a little bit naive to it is a permissions and governance thing, but that does not disqualify our role in like that. You had to go through the house, right? Like you actually had to physically like pray through your house. You felt it come to a head. Right? Like, it's almost like you're just cornering the thing.
And I had to be smart about it. Like, so here's the thing. Like, I share that story now freely. But I didn't. Like, as long as my wife was because she was coming to move into that place with me, I'm not going to tell her that story. Right? Because that's going to freak her out and mess her up. And I've already taken care of it. So I don't, you know, but then later, once we weren't living there anymore.
Hey, you should know.
I
want to hear an interesting story about a place I lived once.
I shared that story, and she was just like, I never, you know, how come you never told me that? And I said, what would you have done if I told you that? And she was like, oh, good point.
That's being a good husband though, too, right? Like, sometimes, like I want in my relationship with Melanie, like, you know, we confide in one another, but there's some things where it's just like, I don't need to burden you with that.
It doesn't. It doesn't lighten my load, and it heavies yours.
So I'm not. I remember Kevin Myers telling me one time, just don't put anything on your wife that she can't help you with anyway, and it's just making her life more miserable.
It's interesting. You talked. Sorry, man. You talked about the whole like you still had to go through the house, that kind of thing. Like, I think that's where when we think about how this stuff works on authority, I don't. To me, the thing that clicked for me was actually when I was going into this situation I just thought about or just mentioned. I sat down and read in Scripture, and it talked about like where Jesus says, you know, you have the authority to go and cast out demons, and that whole idea of like I don't know. I used to watch a lot of westerns with my dad when I was a kid, right? And like sometimes the sheriff would have to deputize people.
Yep.
But it's like the fact that I gave you this badge doesn't mean the bad guys aren't still trying to rob the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does mean you are allowed to go stop them from
Yeah.
robbing
Yeah.
the train, right? So it's not like it works on authority and permissions, not on like physics,
Yes.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you still have to go and kick them out, but you can and you're allowed to.
Yeah, the good news is you have authority in Christ. The bad or the sobering reality is you actually have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and
Like-
I think we try to do these like long distance, Jesus, protect me from all demonic ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, doesn't work that way.
No, there does seem to be a specificity that you have to.
Way more than we think, actually. Like the cleaning out the rooms, and it's not even necessarily once and for all. Like
You never know what can come in with
Jesus,
somebody else.
well, or no, just Jesus says like you clear out the strong man and clear out the house or whatever, and like if you don't like take care of that and keep it, fortified, it's gonna come back, and like. And there are times where even in our own lives, like we don't bat 1,000. We
in
leave
my own
doors.
life. Oh yeah. Like I was, I think about, that kid that I was then, and then, later on in life, like I took a really weird turn there for a while, and yeah, I mean, we can find ourselves in some pretty dark, pretty low places.
Yeah, and that can open you up.
Yeah, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I had been deceived.
Yeah.
I have been lied to, and I bought into it. And it's
And there are levels in which we buy into that, into lies all the time. The enemy's not actively working to destroy us. Yeah. Like he's constantly working to destroy us. And I think we just always have to be pretty proactive and intentional in doing warfare.
Absolutely.
Like marching around your house, man.
Yep.
But I've had people, and just throughout my life who have come to me, and it's almost always linked with, they'll talk about trauma, specifically in childhood. Mm-hmm. And then there's the moment where if they feel like they can trust you enough that they'll share that interaction with the demonic. Like one guy who told me that his father would beat the crap out of him and then throw him out of the house at like 7-8 years old, and he would sleep under his front porch, and something approached him there and said, if you will give me control, I can promise you that one day you will never have to be afraid of anyone or anything.
Wow.
And it was, and when they tell you that, and see, because I mean, there's a level of trust that has to be there, because how many times have they shared that, especially when they were younger, and they go, oh, those things aren't real. Oh, that's just your imagination, right?
You
But
give that permission young, and then actually you forget that you ever did it too.
Yeah. And
or you get some sense of what that thing offered you.
Absolutely.
There's power there, right?
Like what the more of that guy's story.
Yeah.
Did he get to that point?
Oh my goodness, he was the biggest drug dealer in Moncton, New Brunswick, according to him.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful position.
There's a story on there's an episode on Exorcist Files, and that exact thing happens. This boy was getting like traumatized and bullied and beat on, and basically had a being come to him and say like, I will give you the ability to never get picked on in your life.
Yeah.
And he's like, deal.
Yeah.
And like he later on, like it in his life came out like, this guy's a brawler and just beat the crap out of everybody. And then it came out later, he started manifesting demons and needed an exorcism. Wow. And that went back to that moment. Like I had a being come to me at night after I'd been beat up and just said, "Do you want to be tough?" Wow.
So Mike, as we've referenced a few times, you're kind of on the home stretch of your training to be a therapist, and we want to talk at some point here about the intersection of these two things. The demonic and deliverance ministry and therapy. But first, why don't you We've also kind of lightly alluded to a few points of kind of your story. Why don't you give us the relatively Reader's Digest version of kind of your story?
10 floors of an elevator ride.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, so I went to it's Kingswood now, but I went to Bethany Bible College for all the wrong reasons, because it was a place to run away to. They for whatever reason, God opened that door, and I ran through it, and so that was why I went there. While I was there, I came to a saving understanding of who Jesus was, and ministry seemed like as good a thing as anything else to get into. I was actually under the impression that everyone was going to be my friend, and it would be awesome, and I would never have any problems.
That's how it went for me.
That's how it goes for all pastors, right?
Didn't work that way for you?
Did not.
You should get a refund.
So I was married. I'd had a couple of kids, been to a couple of churches. It's just
As into work.
Yeah. And it just, I couldn't do the people. I just didn't have the ability to look at someone who I knew was being sucky and not say you're being sucky. And that doesn't fly.
That never happens at King's Church.
So I,
Did you try to tell him you had a prophetic gift? Because sometimes you can get away with it if you do that. I just have a word for you from the Lord.
not in the places
You're
I
the
was,
worst.
and my delivery may not have been the best either, right?
You gotta do it with tact, like AJ Thomas in a sermon like a few months ago. He's like, I had mental illness, and if you want to know why I had it, it was you.
Yeah. So
I just said being a pastor is stressful, and if you want to know why, it's you.
Yes.
But yes.
So anyway, I cut ties. I just was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to give, because see, there's this, and I know that they kind of do things different. You got to remember, this was 30 years ago. Like, it's hard to believe that it could be that we're still alive, but here we are. But yeah, so it was basically, if you were in a church somewhere in a staff position and the senior guy leaves, well, everyone else is say goodbye to your job, right? Like it's just how it went. So after being through some circumstances like that, I was just like this, and left penniless and jobless, and I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So I decided that it's amazing how God just opens doors and things happen. I've never had a opportunity or job that did not find its birth or its root within that community that I had first fallen into at Bethany.
Really, even outside of ministry.
Even outside of ministry.
Wow, that's
like
cool.
Just
God knew what your robe was going to be.
yeah, and so these different, like my first, in order to buy my house, I was able to cash in that tiny little pension that I had from the Wesleyan Church that gave me the down payment for the house. That the previous tenants in that house were raccoons.
The raccoons or just raccoons?
Bert Raccoon, I think he was there. Yeah, but so, I was able to take that, and God put me, again, I found a job at Chipman Hill Suites through Susan Fullerton, who's connected with First Wesleyan here in St. John. And there I learned some skills and gained the confidence in, there's really nothing that I can't, anything I touch seems to work. So I learned and then said I could do this myself. And so that house, that small little seed from it, I refinanced it and was able to buy my first apartment buildings, and I was able to use those. And the deal always was, okay, Lord, you send me the right people, and I will open the doors. And so people who no one else would have rented to them because they had bad experiences, they had reputations in the city. I was like, listen, this is the deal. I'm all about second chances. And so there were a lot of people that I was able to give a leg up, and they're doing some cool things for God today. So that all went very, very, very well. And then in 2017, and you know me, I've never had one job. I was doing that. I was doing this wilderness camp out in Hammer River survival camp out there. I've always done a bunch of different things. And so I had this physical ability to do intensely long hours of intensely laborious things, and I loved it, and I fed off that, and I was good at it. And then in 2017, my neck broke. And everyone says, well, how'd you break your neck? That's not what I said. My neck broke. I had this spinal stenosis thing, this degenerative thing that doctors have been telling me for years. If you don't stop what you're doing, you're going to be sorry.
Like doing manual labor, basically?
Yeah, they said, if you don't stop doing the physical work you're doing, you're going to be sorry. And my response was, hey, if God wants me to do it, I'm going to do it. It's kind of like that joke about, how God sends
the helicopter.
The helicopter, that whole deal, right? Like, so I just was like, I'm going to keep going as long as I can go, and saw it as a challenge. And so what they had warned me happened. Neck broke. Okay, now I have...
Like woke up one morning with a broken neck kind of a thing? Or
so I was in intense pain for about the year leading up to that. And I had this pain right in the middle of my shoulder blades. And I would go and see different doctors, and they would do tests and scans and MRIs and everything. And they finally said to me, Mike, we think that what you are doing is just drug-seeking activity. You're just looking for more painkillers. We're not doing any more tests. We don't believe you. Right? Heart breaks, right? And when doctors tell you that, and people from the outside looking on see that, they tend to believe the doctors. And so even the people closest to me were like, Mike, you need to give it up. You need to clean up your act. And I mean, I can just sit here and tell you guys, it was well. So anyway, of course it was real. My neck broke, right? So anyway, I was like, okay, no one's going to believe me, and I have to keep this going. I've got all these people that are counting on me. I have this mountain of debt that I've amassed because I had all these things I wanted to do, and I was able to borrow the money because I was successful, and so I had racked up a lot of debt. But everything was fine. The machine was doing what it should do and whatever. But as soon as I broke, the machine broke down. And so...
You were holding it up.
Yeah. And, and I didn't realize just how much it was house cards, right? Like it just all... So when my neck broke, then all of a sudden it was, well, gee, Mr. Ross, we're so sorry that happened. How many drugs would you like?
Many, please.
It was as many as I can get because I got work to do, and now this damage is, so I have this full-on crazy battle going on in my body all the time. My spine was crushed, so I was having that pain. My legs were getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And one day I went to work and the lights went out. And when I woke up, I was on the floor and my legs were so heavy. And so I drug myself out to the truck, and I got in the truck, and I managed to get myself home and up into bed, and I just laid down. And when I woke up, I was completely paralyzed from here down. Like, wow. Couldn't feel anything. And even then, it's like I'm saying, I can't feel my legs. Sure you can. Sure you can. Like it wasn't until I got to the hospital and the doctor came in, and it's a very simple test they do. They stick their finger up your bum and they say squeeze. And and
That's a callback to an episode you haven't heard yet, Mike.
I'm looking forward to it.
For those who are listening, I just brought the Crosby's back front and center here.
There we
So.
go.
Right. So that's the test. And if you can't squeeze, it means you're telling the truth, apparently. Right? Why didn't they do that
I don't
before?
think you'd have to tell me.
handshake.
I don't think you'd have to tell me. I think I'd
So-
just tense up anyway.
So they immediately rushed me in, and they did the scan, and they said your spine is crushed, and they said if we don't go in and operate now, it's going to continue. It's in that part of your neck where it's going to continue.
Wow.
You're going to stop breathing. And it's like, so you want to do the surgery? Well, yeah, I think maybe we should do that.
Let's go ahead.
So clearly they got you fixed up because you walked in here today.
Yeah, so it was touch and go. They didn't know if I was going to walk, but even then, my faith was like, I'm going to wake up, and when they ask if I can wiggle my toes, I'm going to kick my legs. And I went under thinking that, and I did that. And they were like, well, you're going to need a walker. And and here's the thing, like, this is stupid me. I'm back to work. They let me out of the hospital after a couple of weeks, and I go right back to work. I'm taking pills hand over fist because I got to keep the machine going, and it soon starts taking over other areas of my life, and I'm actually becoming less and less productive because now I really am running on Percocets. And so then all that starts falling apart. Everything that you've worked for is falling apart. People who, are seeing the deterioration of the person who, I used to be or was or whatever. Because those drugs, they do more than just numb physical pain. They numb you, and you're just going
The whole you, eh?
the whole you.
Yeah.
There is something that they do to the human spirit that just crushes it. And
Your
so-
mind, everything.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Yeah, all of it. And so I'm literally at the point where I'm getting up in the morning, I'm going to work, being very unproductive, coming back home, and I had this shop that I built, and I literally built it so I would have a warm place to go so I could get really stoned and chain smoke. That was my life for 2 years.
Wow.
And who could I talk to? Because if I tell people this, I'm bringing shame on my family. Right. I'm bringing shame on my, I had never been closer to God than I think I was in those 2 years because I'm crying out every night.
Right.
Save me, right? And every night saying, tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow will be different. I'm not going to, and every night, the same thing. I did that for 2 years. And then finally was like, I stopped praying for all of the things and just was like, I need a miracle. I need a miracle. And then my miracle came. One night I was blotto out of it, staggering around the house, and I fell. And I don't remember. It's kind of one of those dream-like things, but my wife remembers it very well because she heard me fall and came down, and the picture she paints is I'm in a puddle of blood because I busted my head open, and I'm trying to get up and I'm just sliding in it, and my wife comes down and sees that, And so the next day she says, I love you, dude. I love you. But you can't do this here anymore.
Yeah.
You're killing us. And that was my miracle. That was my wake up call. It was like, I got to do something. So I'm in the emergency room waiting to get sewn up, and I'm calling every rehab place. I've got to get some help. And I finally get a hold of the folks at Village of Hope.
Yeah, Andrew.
And I told them my story, and I said, I will drop everything. I'll be there. I can be there. And as soon as they sew me up, I can be there. It wasn't that quick, but they have a waiting list like everyone else. But for whatever reason, a bed came available, and they just felt like we need to give this guy this bed. And so I was there. They called me on a Tuesday, and I was there on a Thursday.
Wow.
Right? Of course, I told all the lies. So you need to have been clean for at least, so sure, right? Like I took,
Probably all of them do the same thing.
Yeah, it's like one of those. Yeah, addicts are great people to ask to tell you the honest
So,
truth.
I was wrecked when I got there, right? But I was there for 3 months. It's supposed to be a 10-month program. But I was sick. Like I had literally destroyed my insides
From pills?
with the amount of pills that I was taking. I should have been dead a million times over.
So like ulcers and stuff? Like,
Yeah. So I'd torn up my insides, and so I was sober, and I was in a better place spiritually, but I was getting sicker and sicker physically while I was there. So the miracle started with me having that wake up call. But what really turned it around was while I was there at the village, once I had gotten my head clear, was like I was an old man. These are all kids,
young
right?
guys, yeah.
And they're all like as just like the stories I was telling about how all my life people have come to me with the stuff that and they find out that I'm a man of faith and that I've got some education, and all of a sudden they have all these questions and they have all these stories, and I'm listening to them and I'm telling them like, no man, you're not making that up. Like that's the real thing. And it's like that's where I met the guy who under the porch, and God is like going, this is what I created you for. This is like, remember this? Like this was you.
Yeah.
This is who you used to be. And it's like, I do remember, and this we need to dig into this. And he says it's gonna mean an awful lot of schooling. And I'm like, all right. And so anyway, I came back home, and they actually, it was amazing how God restored my body. How, I got into the hospital, and at first, again, it was, we don't know what this is. And it turns out that like they can scope you from both ends, and there's this little bit called your duodenum that they can't get either scope in. Well, that's where all my ulcers were.
Did they try molasses?
I think it was like it. It was something radioactive. They put it down in there, and
That's their other product.
and it showed up on.
Crosby's barium.
They said that's what you've got. You have duodenal ulcers. Easy fix. And so they put me on this drip for a couple of weeks and clears it right up.
Wow.
So I'm home and I'm sober, but
Now what?
right? Yeah. And I have no community left. Like really the only friend that I had any contact with, well, I shouldn't say that. There were two guys. There was this guy right here who, I don't even know if you remember, but like that summer previous, I had told you, I was like, dude, I'm so addicted to painkillers, and I I don't think I'm going to stop anytime soon. Right? Yeah. You're like, well, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the details, but I remember you being pretty open
right?
about
It was
substances that were getting you through.
Timing wise, you probably weren't the best sounding board at the time.
I'm never
anyway.
the best sounding. Like what specifically, and where do you acquire it? No,
yeah. and then the other guy was Darren Clark. Yep. He's the pastor at River Valley Wesleyan, where I'm, where they allow me to dabble in many different ministry type things. And so
we love Darren, by the way. So he's
he's
original planter of our first like site.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Darren's the man. Anyway,
he's a cool dude.
Carry on.
So anyway, he approaches me. He comes to see me at my house, and I tell him this whole story, but the 4-hour version that AJ got when I told him the original with all the other cool stuff that happens. And he listens to me tell this story of my fall from grace and how ashamed I am and how, like my family's still a mess. I haven't even begun to put that back together. And he says to me, you want to come help out with the youth ministry? And, pastors all across watching this are going, no, he was like, come do that. I'm like, I haven't even been to church in years. Like, I can't even imagine what that would look like. And he's like, look like someone who needs to be around around some cool people. Like, you need something, right? And so I was like, well, let me think about it. And so I actually was going there on Wednesday nights helping with the youth ministry. I hadn't even been back to church yet, but I was going there, and it was better for my being around those kids did more for my mental health than anything else up to this point. And that's why for me, like that purpose is so important, right? And so then it's like, well, if I'm going to be here doing this, I at least need to go. I should probably start attending church, right? And so me and Tracy, my wife, we that first Sunday we're going, and it's amazing how the enemy like attacks just, and like he's like, you're going to go there, and they're gonna look at you, and they're going to wonder like, oh yeah, look who's crawling back.
The lies of shame and
and all the shame and all that. And it wasn't any of that. They were so happy to see us.
Absolutely.
They just they took out their nicest robe and they put it on me, and they put a ring on my finger and said,
welcome home.
welcome home.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. And it's been, and like those people are amazing.
That's awesome.
So so it was through that, like I got home after my stint in the hospital mid-February, and I was like, okay, I want this counseling thing, because I saw these young guys at the village, and that was the big thing, is there's no help for these guys. Mm-hmm. Like there's the lists for mental health, like for people, for the regular folks with issues, is long. For guys like that who there's not just a mental component, but there's the spirit. All of it has a spiritual
physiological
component, of
everything.
course, right?
Yeah.
But it's all of that. It's like God's like, these are the people. This is your clientele. Like this is, and so
that's awesome. Man.
All right. So anyway, I applied to Yorkville with my Bethany Bible College degree, and
after they were done laughing,
30 years of being in property management, right? And with my story, and they, crazy stuff. Like, so I needed, in order to get into the master's program for, counseling psychology, like the bar needs to be pretty high. And so I needed to have a 3.5 GPA. Well, my my GPA was. I remember being bitter about it because it was 3.4 something, and 3.5 is whatever honors. And so anyway, when I went and applied for my transcript, it came back, and that C- that I got in Psalms, because it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
Been there.
It was
8 o'clock Branscombe is a recipe for failure.
Somehow it was a C, and it bumped my GPA just up over the. Wow. So I didn't have to have all this extra.
The Lord faked your transcript.
The Lord,
blessed be the name of the Lord.
He can do it, man.
He can do it.
He can reach back. I took a test in 6th grade. I bombed.
Yeah.
And I prayed all week, Lord, change the mark on that test. I kid you not, I got 100.
No way.
100. And I was convinced I failed.
Yeah.
So
some poor other kid who did great on the test, he wound.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I've been rolling in the favor of the Lord
because
ever
the
since.
scales have to balance, right?
Right. Yeah, he has to. Yeah. It's karma.
So anyway, I went through all the academic part of Yorkville. I started in 2023, and I finished the academic part back in December. And starting in January, I began my practicum with the wonderful people at, you may have heard us mention this, Seen Heard Found Counselling.
Seen Heard Found Counselling.cc.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the CR people will know this name, Trisha Wilson.
Yeah, oh yeah.
She is my supervisor,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, what a rock star.
She is a rock
You
star.
need to have her
We will.
on this thing, because, look, I'm learning so much. Like,
It's awesome.
man. So, yeah, I am in week 10 of my my 30-something week practicum, and I have some clients. I could certainly use some more, because there's an hour prerequisite that I have to hit
You heard it here.
for the end of April. And if I don't hit that, then I gotta start over again, and that would really suck. Yeah. So, yeah, I am available, and I am affordable. And what I don't have in book smarts, because there's a lot that I struggle with that part of.
But did
of
pass
it.
all your courses and are like a duly graduated
man.
whatever.
Yeah.
Look,
A
you're
3.4 GPA is solid.
Yeah.
So, I'm I've had some experiences too that kind of qualify me.
Beautiful, man.
I mean, one of the
some
things
things.
I've said to some of the folks I've recommended talk to you, Mike, is sometimes your option, if you're going to go to someone who's just out of school, is you're also going to go to someone who, in a lot of people's cases, it's like half your age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like there's definitely as you've heard, a major life experience component that now is kind of connected with the educational clinical component. And
Man, that where you mentioned, it's just cool to hear just the way the Lord has brought you through this. Like, I wouldn't say redeemed your purpose, but like clarified it and like brought you into this space where there's
He sanctifies stuff, right?
right.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Which we have baggage with that word, sanctify, but like it's like improves it cleanses it.
he takes that, like what the Japanese do, like they break stuff on purpose.
Kintsugi.
Yeah,
It's called
and
kintsugi.
then they put the gold in it, and it's
Yeah.
like
Makes
it's
it
even
more
better.
beautiful.
It's even stronger.
Yeah.
Like,
in your case, it's titanium, not gold.
Adamantium, actually.
there are
It's,
some bits, and that's the other thing is, while I was doing my school stuff, I had my second neck surgery to kind of stave off some more of this stenosis that's going on. And so, yeah, I've got all kinds of cool bits and pieces.
You mentioned like the word purpose, and I think that's and we don't have a ton of time left, but like that, there's this thought I have and I don't know a lot about mental health. Sitting in the back corner today, I would be the least knowledgeable about that whole arena, but I am convinced something that there is a connection between like the level of clarity and conviction you have for your purpose and the level of like, I don't know if I would use the word anxiety, but like just like existential angst one can find themselves living in.
Yeah.
Like those two things are
Well, it's
connected.
hopelessness.
Yeah.
And hope, I'm convinced, you know, and from what I've studied, you know, it bears, you know, as far back as Alfred Adler, and if you don't know who he is, he's the guy who looked at Freud and went, no, it's not that. Right? And he believes that the whole pursuit for our clients, the whole pursuit of psychology is the pursuit of hope. It's giving people hope. And there are two things that are absolutely required for hope. The first is community. You've got to have community. If you do not have, you cannot have hope on your own. You can't. And number two is purpose. Yeah. And you can't have purpose on its own and have hope. You can't have community on its own and have hope. And the only organization that exists on the planet that can offer both of those things in a way that offers the truest hope is the church.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that book? I read it a while ago. Viktor Frankl. You familiar with that one?
The dude who was in Auschwitz?
Yeah, he was in Auschwitz. I forget what the book's called, but he like basically highlights that whole process and the people who survived the concentration camps were the ones that had hope. Yeah. And it's quite fascinating. But yeah, there's this. I'd love to preach a full sermon on it, but I've got bits and pieces. There's that passage in John 20 where like Jesus has died and the disciples are freaked out because the Jews are now, they're like, well, we're next, right? And they're hiding in a room in Jerusalem, like just terrified of like, we're going to get, we got next. And it says that Jesus like appears to them, like comes through the wall kind of thing. Talk about paranormal. There's some,
right.
Can't believe in Bigfoot, but you believe in a resurrected Savior.
Comes through the wall and then says, "Hey, touch me."
Touch me, yeah.
Right.
And then he says, "Peace be with you." He gives him peace, his peace, and then immediately says, "Go," like I'm sending you. Like, and there's that like purpose, you know, like that shift from they're terrified, and then
I have to add this in because this has been the message that's been on my heart for this moment. Ever since AJ said we want you to come on, before the disciples even believed that Jesus was who he claimed to be, they had community and they had purpose. And the error that we make in the church is we say you need to have a clear understanding of who Jesus is in as it pertains to you and your life before you can have community.
Yeah,
it's hard to being, you know, like the community thing you can kind of like maybe sort of, but we're afraid to send people out in the name of Jesus, you know, without having that nailed down. Like I know that's radical, like that's totally. Like
I mean, we did a baptism not long ago. We do them quite regularly, and
it's kind of a sacrament for us.
It kind of is, yeah. But I got some pushback on it was frustrating. You know, it's some of the stuff that drives you out of ministry, right? Some pushback on a person that got baptized by some other people, and like they're like, well, you know, this person's blah 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 blah, and I said to them like, I've never not baptized a sinner.
It's like the whole point, right? Like when in Acts, when they baptized 3,000 people, I am convinced that the next morning those baptized people woke up and went,
"What happened?"
Okay, I have some questions, right?
Literally, I stood on those. So where Peter did the Acts 2 sermon, I stood on those steps in Jerusalem, and there are probably 20 mikvahs. They're like Jewish baths, and like literally what happened was he preached, and the Spirit of God just grabbed 3,000 hearts, and they're like, "Now what?" I'm like, I guess guess you get baptized. And,
Yeah.
like there was no catechism. There was no like you have your theology button down. Like it was just we want to follow Jesus too. We're not even really sure what that looks like, but can we be part of this
Yeah.
kind of thing?
And I think that is the, people, they run out of hope before they can jump through the hoops to get to the purpose, right?
Yeah.
We need to be like immediately like, you have a saving faith in Jesus. We're going to baptize you, and here are all the areas.
Yeah.
Now, yes, there are certain things that they probably shouldn't be doing certain things.
Preaching the next Sunday.
Right? Yeah, probably they shouldn't be on the preaching schedule, but there should be, it should not be hard to, to look after, having those people look after the alien, the fatherless, and the widow, like, come on.
Oh, yeah, there's we've had these conversations in our church at the highest levels, and like we've had conversation like, there has got to be spaces and places and relationships within our congregation that anybody can have who's not like an objective danger to somebody.
But there's so much fear. There's
Well, I
so
think-
much fear in the church, like, and
We get the order of like maybe you guys have heard. I'm sure you have. You guys have both been around ministry forever. But there's that like believe, belong, behave. And I think a lot of the time, because of just humanity, carnality, the flesh, the devil, like that behavioral component gets put out in front, and that's actually the caboose on the train. That's not the. It's like that thing changes on the way.
Jesus said, "Come spend some time with me. Come hang out with me."
Yeah.
And then they watched him and they went, "Huh?
Yeah.
I love
You think
the
we
scene-
could try that?"
I love the scene where he starts going, "Who do people say I am?" Right? They're like, "Oh, they say you're this." How about you guys? You figured it out yet?
What do you think?
Like, does it
Yeah.
click for you yet?
Yeah.
Like, however far in they are, months or years in. It's like, you guys, does it make any sense to you yet? Like, are you onto this? Like, have you started to figure out I'm not just a dude yet? Like,
Well, Mike, man, I love what God's doing in your story, and it's super encouraging to hear. And yeah, it's been I didn't realize you were that far down the rabbit hole on the substance.
Look, I know that there are going to be people listening to this right now that are either going, "Holy cow, that's me,"
Yeah,
or because we're just so quick to give a pill, or they're saying, "I know somebody," and they're living in that shame, right? Well, like,
is it a gradual thing too? Like as far as like especially abusing painkillers?
I
Like,
never,
No one's like I'm gonna be a painkiller addict.
I did no, well, nobody, even the young guy who is using substances, because all addiction, all of it, not just substances, all of it is self-medication. Right. It's this hurts, I don't want to hurt anymore. And
no one does it because of how well life is going.
Right. Nobody chooses it. The difference for me, and I think for a lot of guys out there, is I never had one drug-fueled good time. I never had one awesome party where, it was, I'm in pain, and now I'm in more pain. And
You didn't even get the honeymoon phase.
yeah, I didn't even get that. I just got, we're going to give you this that's going to make that pain go away, but it's going to create for you pain on the level of which you, like, as bad as the physical pain in that period of time was, it doesn't even come close to the pain that I was in when my kids stopped inviting me to their stuff because I was just going to be that stoned guy drooling in the corner. Like, my Lydia has just got accepted. She's in the top 10. They choose 4. She's in the top 10 for this big scholarship called the Curry, right?
Wow.
This won't be out before that, so this is all after the fact. Yeah, so she is that good. This is for engineering,
Wow.
right? Her GPA is, I have to brag on her. Her GPA is a 97.
Wow.
Like, come on, right? Like, my kid, seriously? Anyway.
Let's be honest, that's Tracy's kid.
Fair enough. Very true. But yeah, part of the reason that she qualifies for this is because it's given on dealing with hardship in your life. And so her story, the blessing that's coming, or potentially coming out of this, is her dad being such a colossal screw up during like the years that I missed. And I could, but
that's the promise of God to return everything the locust devoured.
Yeah.
And to
was it you that somebody said that, they mentioned that?
I don't remember the things I say, so.
Yeah. But no, the years that the locust devoured, that's been spoken over
happening,
me
man.
so many times by different people.
Yeah.
Just
Beautiful, man.
Love it. Well, we are at that time.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, man. Yeah.
Thanks.
And
Thanks for having me here.
as is our custom, which you are as one of the dozens, you're aware.
Are you ready for this one? I sent you all this information. I don't know if you got it or not.
I am.
All right.
I am ready.
And you may not have, you wouldn't have because it hasn't aired yet as of the time of this recording. But the episode before this, we changed the title of this segment from Mount Rushmore in deference to the trade war that's going on right now with our southern brethren.
Okay.
This is now called the Mountainous Top 4.
The Mountainous Top 4.
It's kind of a generic off-brand.
And there's the theme music.
There we go.
Dog and Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Just Canada.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh, we were supposed to pick a pet mountain.
Yes.
Mount Champlain last time.
Yeah.
Let's go Pulley Mountain.
Pulley Mountain.
This one's
So this week's Mountainous Top 4 is brought to you by Pulley Mountain. If you're ever in Waterford and want to go for a ski, check out Pulley
I
Mountain.
love the specificity of that. I think I could never have told you it was in Waterford.
Oh, buddy. It's in Well, it's out. Technically, it's out Waterford Way. If you really want to talk like you're from Sussex, which is
You go to Penobscot, hang a right.
well, you got to go through Dutch Valley, but out Sussex Corner. So if it's out somewhere, it's in that place. If it's out such and such a place way, it's on the way to that. And then if it's out past, so Waterford is actually out past Pulley.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So today's Mountainous Top 4, brought to you by Pulley Mountain out Waterford Way,
Out Waterford Way.
is ranking your top 4. I love this
My
one.
buddy Andrew Benson is losing it right now because we talk about this all the time.
Well, and he's going to probably,
Outcast,
knowing
whatever.
Andrew and knowing the age and stage that he fits in, which is pretty much our primary
There
demographic,
we
which
go.
also is represented around this table presently. Your top 4 80s and 90s cartoon franchise.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
Top 4 80s, 90s cartoon franchises.
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah, you
I usually end it, so I'll start it. All right, here we go. I want to do honorable mention first. They didn't make my top 4.
Okay.
But I'm gonna just go an honorable mention to like the Disney early '90s stuff, such as DuckTales, Tailspin, Gummy Bears,
Chippendales Rescue Rangers.
They had a good run there.
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't make it, but
Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck.
Yes, that was awesome.
I like Tailspin.
Tailspin.
Yeah. DuckTales had a good intro music too. We could rank the intro music sometime too. Good best. Put this in the things to do later. Best theme music.
All right.
That'd be fun. So okay, here we go. TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, yeah.
That's just that was big for me.
Teenage Mutant Ninja
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe didn't make mine,
Yep.
despite the fact that G.I. Joe was by miles my favorite toy growing up.
Yep.
But because, as we discussed on a previous episode,
You weren't privileged
I
like
didn't grow
me.
up bougie enough
You
to
didn't
have cable TV, so I couldn't watch it.
I never seen that.
I had at least 30 channels. So.
Yeah. I had 4 counting French CBC.
Number 3, which now when I look back and watch anything from this show, I'm just like, I can't believe, like, what a different world we live in. This could never exist now. He-Man.
Yes.
He-Man.
And the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah. And then here's my final one, Astro Boy.
Oh,
Astro Boy.
that's a good one.
Yeah, reaching deep cut.
Yeah.
Soaring high in the sky. He may be small, but only in size. Astro Boy.
Astro Boy.
He is brave and gentle and wise.
All right. You got any for us, Mike?
Oh yeah, man.
Lay 'em
Okay.
on us.
So
I know you and I are going to agree on one of them, so I want you to go first so I don't steal your thunder.
Yes. Okay. So
Teddy Ruxpin.
yeah, he just stole.
cartoon,
He
though,
just
is it?
stole our thunder.
Dead serious.
Oh, that was going to be your
That
thing?
is the
Dead
greatest
serious.
cartoon in the history of ever.
Bro, this was not scripted, people.
When we were in college, Mike was in college and I was in grade 12.
That's where we discovered it.
Yeah, and we would watch Teddy Ruxpin together at that age.
Wasn't there like that creature that had like
Grubby?
Grubby, yeah. What was he?
An Iliop.
In Iliop.
My best friend is an Iliop. An Iliop. An Iliop is my best friend.
He looks like a tardigrade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what a tardigrade is?
Yeah.
All right.
The space bears or whatever they're calling them.
Google it, folks.
Yeah. The
Okay,
Monsters
so-
and Villains organization.
So I stole your first one.
So yeah,
get the
okay. So
crystals.
so that was gonna be number one.
Got the Supreme
I was gonna
Oppressor.
start 4 and
That's the
go
best.
down, but
That's the best villain name of all time. The Supreme Oppressor.
all right, so we know what number
All
one
of
is.
it.
Go to number 4.
All right.
And come back down.
all right. So number 4 would be I have to go the other way.
Yeah,
All right.
number one, Teddy
So
Ruxpin.
Teddy Ruxpin, by far, I went and watched it actually just recently.
Oh, really?
And I'm telling you, it holds
It
up.
holds
man.
up?
Yeah.
Like it's a story. It's a
This is what I think it is. Like
an
back
odyssey?
back in
Yes.
the day, what they used to do, because they were all just a lot of these cartoons we grew up on were just advertisements for toys, right?
Yeah.
So they would hire, like they would come up with a toy, and then they would hire like a legit writer of some sort and just say like, we'll
Write
pay
a
you
story about
to- yeah.
this.
And so they would just, I think a lot of them just had ideas for some basic idea of a story. Like I could fit these characters
But
into that.
even beyond that, the genius of it is that's what is the Teddy Ruxpin toy? It's a doll that tells stories, and those are the stories it's telling. It's so meta. It's anyway. So yeah, Teddy Ruxpin.
Are we in a simulation?
Teddy Ruxpin, the greatest. Transformers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
You
now,
you
if-
brought them.
Now, if you want a show that there is, especially the first couple seasons, where there's no story at all, and you know the next show actually contradicts the previous show. Like in the beginning, the Autobots could fly, but then they were like, "Well, no, now only the
have to
Decepticons
drive.
can fly. The Autobots have to be, you know."
And the Decepticon can fly even though he's a gun. Or the
Yeah, he just as a gun would fly through the air.
The giant
The pistol
50-story
that is
robot
nothing on
can
scale
become
with-
a pistol small enough for a human to hold. Like, you know,
only makes
but
sense.
but that's explained
They're
easily
aliens.
by mass shifting, right? Like, come on, right? So then,
Who among us haven't witnessed some mass shifting here and there?
right?
number 3.
So Thundercats was pretty great.
Ooh, I did consider that.
Thunder, Thundercats.
And I would say I hadn't considered it until you mentioned it, but Astro Boy
Yeah.
was definitely good. But right with that, and I think it might have had something to do with the time that it was on, and it's not technically a cartoon, but remember the New Adventures of Pinocchio?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and also the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
yeah, that
Okay.
he's-
Funny land called the world.
You know, but waiting for the school bus, watching
Totally.
those.
Every
are
morning,
creepy,
whether you
man.
liked it or not.
Eating my shreddies before
Some
I...
of those shows are creepy. You
Oh,
look
dude,
back on
yeah.
them.
Like that claymation-y stuff is like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's all, you're looking back, it's like when you see those pictures of like Halloween costumes from the 30s or
Yeah.
whatever, and like those are way more scary than anything Hollywood's ever
That's a
created.
good list.
Walk and talk and fly.
That's a
do
good list.
Anything I try.
I like that,
That
list.
was, dude,
That's solid.
Those both
Solid
of those
list.
had kind of occurred to me. They didn't make the list, but they'd occurred. to
Yeah.
me.
All right, what do you got, Thomas?
Well, I got Teddy Ruxpin for all the aforementioned reasons.
The meta take
Dude,
is
it really, it's like it's a legit, the plot is intriguing.
Brought to you by Teddy Ruxpin. Right? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, I guess. And I'm going to go with you on Astro Boy. That was on my list,
Yeah.
pre-existing on my list. I gotta go Voltron
I forgot.
Voltron,
Yeah,
come on.
That was one of my first loves.
Voltron was like, that was the come home from school and be stoked.
yeah.
That's
Because I was
coming on.
a privileged kid, I had the 5 cats. That
I
collected.
actually had those too.
So you're a little more bougie than you're letting on. Huh?
Well, I think that was one of those, like, my parents sacrificed pretty big.
they
to
didn't
get
eat
that.
for a month.
My dad did lose a lot of weight around that time. I don't know. Yeah, no, I loved Voltron. I thought that was so cool. Voltron, there's this this YouTube channel called Secret Galaxy, where they do these like deep dives on like old cartoons and, and franchise stuff like that. They did one on Voltron. So Voltron was originally multiple different cartoon series in Japan, and they bought the rights to it, but they didn't like just overdub the voices. They actually re-edit it to make totally different stories and stuff.
Wow.
So it's like this weird like collage of, so they'd be like, we're going to take the scenes from this and the characters from that, and they'd cut it and paste it all together. It's fascinating, the behind the scenes of it too. And then this is, I do believe, a little piece of CanCon. I always got to bring in the CanCon, but I'm going to go Rocket Robin Hood.
Rocket
Robin Hood.
Yes.
Oh,
that
dude.
must predate me.
Oh, it predates almost everything. Penicillin. It's an old, I mean, it was on when I was a kid, but if you were stuck with Booney Vision, it was right in there with the New Adventures of Pinocchio.
Yeah, I had too much cable to get into that. Yeah.
Too much cable.
You weren't watching that 70s, repeating. The background repeats itself.
There was an episode of Rocket Robin Hood that was identical to an episode of Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, and as I understand it, the guy who animated Spider-Man in the States literally stole all the cells, like the animation cells, and ran to Canada. And he got a job animating Rocket Robin Hood, and he's like, I could just overdub Rocket Robin Hood for Spider-Man. Just one where they go underground and there's the weird organ guy.
Look it up.
And there's the Beatles that they're driving around.
They're like bug people.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Rocket
up. I should
Robin
look up how it looks.
Rocket Robin
Amazing
Hood.
quarterstaff.
Yeah.
That was Little John.
Electro quarterstaff.
Yeah, the electro quarterstaff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ringing a bell
And
now.
Friar Tuck.
Friar Tuck eating the
And throwing everything over behind him.
Takes a bite, throws it behind him. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember this.
So that's me. Teddy Ruxpin, Voltron, Astro Boy, and Rocket Robin Hood.
I love it.
Weird space theme going on there.
I mean, are we surprised?
They were all of
this group?
of the boys'
Yeah.
shows back then.
And here we are, 40 years later. We've got all the paraphernalia, and we're having tinfoil hat conversations.
There we go. I think I'm thinking we need to get a Voltron or something up
We
in
should
here.
get a Voltron up here.
We got to work on this stuff.
Mike,
all right.
thanks, man.
Thank you so
Now
much,
we dance.
Thank you, guys. This was fun.
That's where the log driver lives.
We waltz. We waltz. We don't dance on the way out. We waltz.
The log driver's waltz leaves his girls completely.
It's a great song.
When the drive's nearly over, I like to go down and watch all the lads as they work on the river. I know that come evening they'll be in the town, and we all like to waltz with the log driver.